Please be seated. Good morning. Would you please check to silence all cell phones for this ceremony? I'm Greg Monroe, and I'm honored to be serving as Interim Dean of the University of Montana School of Law. When students graduate from college, families often send representatives. We're thrilled by the fact that when our students graduate from law school, the whole family comes. We welcome family and friends to the University of Montana School of Law hooding and graduation ceremony. We are especially grateful to have with us today Clay Christian, Montana's Commissioner of Higher Education, Dean Blake Morant, President of the American Association of Law Schools, and Dean of George Washington University School of Law in Washington, D.C., his wife Paulette, our own Dean Designate, Professor Paul Kyrgyz of St. John's University School of Law in New York, and our special guests, Xander and Andy Blewett from Great Falls. Law faculty are some of the luckiest professionals I know because we work with law students. By my count, only 32 months ago, the faculty and deans met this group for their first classes in late August of 2012 and set about getting to know you and learn your names. Though we have done this for years, we are annually surprised to suddenly and without warning be celebrating your graduation and welcoming you to your professional careers. Before I introduce our stage party, I want to thank John Haffey and George McMillian of the Celtic Dragon Pipe Band and our Native American singers, the Dry Lake Singers, including Tony Ryder, Michael Ryder, Calvin Gaughan, and Dean Moccasin. I'm pleased now to introduce our stage party and would ask you to hold your applause until I have introduced all the party. From your left to right, we have Registrar Lisa Marie Hislop, Associate Dean Andrew King Reese, and Dean Designate Professor Paul Kyrgyz. On my left, on your left, is Commissioner of Higher Education Clay Christian. I'm sorry, we have them out of order here. In the middle over here is Commissioner of Education for Montana Clay Christian. President of the American Association of Law Schools, Dean Blake Morant of George Washington University School of Law sits next to him. And on the end there is Clinical Director and Professor Maylin Smith from the Law School faculty. Please join me in welcoming the members of our stage party. It is with a certain sadness that we acknowledge colleagues who are, by reason of retirement or other opportunities, departing UM School of Law. First, we have been honored to have Dean Irma Russell as Dean of the Law School for the 5 years from 2009 through 2014, after which she returned to the faculty. We are pleased to announce that Dean Russell has been selected to hold the Edward A. Smith Chair of Law, the Constitution, and Society at the University of Missouri-Kansas City School of Law. Irma graduated from the University of Kansas School of Law in 1980. She came to us from the National Energy Environmental Law and Policy Institute at University of Tulsa, where she was a professor from 2006 to 2009. Irma's extensive career in legal academia has involved environmental law, energy law, administrative law, and professional ethics. She has been chair of the ABA Professionalism Committee section of legal education. She's been chair of the ABA Environmental section. Irma will begin her new position in August. We are indebted greatly to Irma, and we wish her the best in this new and exciting endeavor. Professor Maylin Smith has been the backbone of our Indian law program here. She joined the faculty in 1994. She's an associate professor, clinical supervisor, and director of the Marjorie Hunter Brown Indian Law Clinic. She is also director of the clinical program at the University of Montana School of Law. In her clinical work with students, she has assisted tribal governments, organizations, and individuals by addressing a variety of Indian law issues. In addition to handling various types of litigation involving Indian issues in tribal, state, and federal courts, she and her students have drafted tribal codes, trained tribal judges and staff, federal agencies, and Indian organizations on legal requirements and procedures. She's provided assistance to tribal economic development, Indian Child Welfare Act matters, and comments on legislation at the tribal, state, and federal level. Before she joined the faculty, she engaged in private practice. Chief Judge of the Southern Indian Tribal Court, Appellate Judge for the Southwest Intertribal Court of Appeals and the Fort Peck Tribal Court of Appeals, and Legal Advisor for the Salish and Kootenai Tribal Court. This coming year, Mei-Lin will teach under a post-retirement contract with the law school, and we are most indebted to Mei-Lin. It's been wonderful having her as a full-time member of the faculty. Would you join me in remembering Mei-Lin? I have noticed that my colleagues, former Dean Martin Burke, former Dean Ed Eck, Sally Weaver, Bill Corbett, Peggy Tonin, Fritz Snyder, and Ray Cross have all retired. So when Paul takes over on July 1st, I too will retire from my wonderful 27 years of full-time teaching and look forward to teaching insurance and torts on a post-retirement contract next year. I'll keep my fingers in with the school. It's been a wonderful run. Now I'm pleased to introduce Professor Mei-Lin Smith, Clinical Director for the Law School, to announce the Student Graduation Awards.
So I have the honor today of announcing the various law school awards received by members of the class of 2015. I'm going to ask you to hold your applause until all the awards have been announced and the winners named. Award recipients, if you would please stand when I read your name. John P. Archer Award to recognize outstanding achievement. J. Andrew Pearson. Emmett C. England Award to demonstrate conviction and concern in the rendition of legal services. Tobias Cook. American Bankruptcy Institute Medal of Excellence for excellence in the study of bankruptcy law, Drew A. Moore and Kathleen Steinhoff. Clinical Legal Education Outstanding Student Award for excellence in the field of fieldwork and excellence in the seminar component of clinic, Kathleen Hepburn. Edward E. Kramer Award for the best research paper in the field of environmental law, David A. Bell and Colin W. Phelps. The Dean's Award for recognition of student leadership, Samir Arab. The Fran Algen Award for recognition and demonstrated commitment to human equality, Madison Mattioli No Runner and Donald John Stuker. Norman Hansen Legal Writing Award for the Best Appellate Brief in Appellate Advocacy, John N. Wolfe. I believe he's not present today. International Academy of Trial Lawyers Student Advocacy Award for students who demonstrate an overall ability in trial advocacy by high achievement in trial practice, evidence, and pleading and procedure courses, Caitlin Boylan Arab and Lee Wyman Tracy. The Eddie McClure Memorial Award presented by the Indian Law Section of the Montana State Bar in recognition of dedication to the advancement of Indian law or service to Indian tribes or individuals, Daniel P. Knudsen. Justin Miller Award for Outstanding Leadership of the Montana Law Review, Caitlin Borland Arab and Thomas J. Beganin. The Carol Mitchell Award for Demonstrated Excellence in the Study and Practice of Alternative Dispute Resolution, Megan Elisa Benson. The Order of Barristers for Outstanding Achievement in Appellate Advocacy, Callie J. Oisted, Thomas J. Begernan, Jordan W. Fitzgerald, Kathleen J. Hepburn, Dylan Leo Gallagher, Ryan Lorenz, John W. Wolfe, Shay Aniston Batiste Salmons. The Outstanding Law Student Award awarded by the Student Bar Association, Kelly J. Oisted. The Phi Delta Phi Award awarded to an outstanding senior by the Phi Delta Phi fraternity, Drew A. Moore. Exceptional Pro Bono Legal Service Award to recognize exceptional volunteer legal services as a law student, Tobias Cook. The Paul Rafferty Award awarded for exceptional dedication and diligence in their approach to clinical work, Drew A. Moore. The Weymouth D. Sims Award for excellence in writing an appellate brief and presenting an oral argument before judges of a moot court, Caitlin Boylan Arab. And the Exception in Volunteer Service Award to recognize exceptional traditional volunteer services while attending law school, Megan Elisa Benson.
Congratulations on your exceptional performance. Thank you, Professor Smith. I am now pleased to announce our annual faculty awards. The Boone Faculty Scholarship Award is presented to a law faculty member demonstrating excellence in scholarship. I'm pleased to announce that Professor Elaine Gagliardi is the recipient of this award this year. The Howard W. and Jane S. Heeman Memorial Law Faculty Award is presented to an outstanding professor in the field of law. I'm pleased to announce that Professor Michelle Bryan is the recipient of this award. The Pauline and Robert Poor Faculty Service Award is presented each year to a law faculty member whose service to the profession and public is particularly noteworthy. I'm very pleased to announce that Professor Anthony Johnstone is the recipient of this award this year. The Marjorie Hunter Brown Teaching Stipend is awarded annually to a law professor who exemplifies the spirit of professionalism and professional qualities for which Marjorie Hunter Brown was so well known, an open door to students and distinguished public service. I am pleased to announce that Professor Andrew King Reese is the recipient of this award. The Garlington Lawn and Robinson Teaching Award is awarded annually to a law faculty member demonstrating excellence in teaching. I am pleased to announce that Professor Jordan Gross is the recipient of this award. The David R. Mason Award is a 2-year stipend awarded to an outstanding professor of law. I'm pleased to announce that Professor Larry Howell is the recipient of this award. Please join me in applauding these award winners and the entire faculty for their commitment. And I want to thank the entire law school faculty for their commitment to teaching, scholarship, and service, which are the hallmarks of this institution. I would also like to thank the entire law school staff, the law library staff, the administrative staff, and everyone who helps run this school for their service to our students and our school's constituents. We all appreciate your good work. At this time, I want to introduce we're going to introduce our speaker, but our Dean Designate, Paul Kyrgyz, and his father have a long-time history with Dean Blake Morant. And so I've asked Paul to introduce him, but before we do that, I want to talk a bit about Paul Kyrgyz. Paul's family hails from Colorado. He has a Bachelor's of Arts in English from Colgate University. He graduated with his J.D. magna cum laude from Washington and Lee University School of Law in 1994. He practiced with a focus on state and federal litigation with Baker and Hostetler in D.C. for 2 years, and then with Miller and Chevalier in D.C., also in litigation, for 2 more years, before becoming a visiting professor at the College of William and Mary. In 2004, he joined the faculty at St. John's University School of Law in New York City, where he is a tenured full professor. He is the founder and faculty chair of the Hugh L. Carey Center for Dispute Resolution, and he's held that position for the last 6 years. He is an expert in dispute resolution. He was Associate Dean for Faculty Scholarship at St. John's. He's taught evidence, alternative dispute resolution, negotiation, lawyering, civil procedure, and introduction to law. I looked at his faculty awards. He's received the Faculty Outstanding Achievement Medal. He's been Professor of the Year twice, and he's received the Dean's Teaching Award 3 times. He's an excellent teacher. I've had much chance to work and talk with Paul this week, and including 5 or 6 hours in the car driving to and from Great Falls. And the faculty have spent 2 days with Paul this week also in the Faculty Institute where they worked on strategic planning. So I guess I'm asking the faculty, what do you think? Do we pick a good dean? I am absolutely heartened by Paul's intelligence, his natural ability with peoples, and his excellent judgment. And Paul, you're going to be an absolutely great dean here, and we look forward to it. And Paul, would you please introduce our graduation speaker?
Thank you very much. It's a real privilege to me to be able to lead this law school, particularly at such an exciting time in the school's history with the gift the school has received from the Blewett family, the opportunities that we're going to have to impact the lives of generations of students of Montana and lawyers across the state. It's a real honor for me to be here. And I want to take a moment before I introduce Blake to recognize again Greg. Greg's retiring. Greg has been an institution at this law school for decades now, and in the brief time that I have been involved with this university and this law school, I cannot imagine a more dedicated servant and a better professor than Greg. Greg, thank you. Congratulations to all of our graduates and to the families. This is an exciting time for you as well. And I've gotten to know a handful of you, and I look forward to getting to know you all as you go out into your practices, whether in Montana or beyond. And at this time, it's my great privilege to introduce your commencement speaker, Blake Morant. Blake has been a good friend of mine for 20-some-odd years now. He is one of the leading lights in the world of legal education. Blake received his undergraduate degree Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Virginia and then went on to the UVA Law School. And then he went on into a very diverse and distinguished career in the law, beginning with the U.S. Army's Judge Advocate General's Office. Then he practiced with a major law firm in Washington, D.C. before entering the Legal Academy. He taught at no fewer than 5 law schools, including my alma mater, Washington and Lee, where I got to know him. And then he went on to become the dean of the Wake Forest School of Law and most recently the dean of the George Washington University School of Law. Along the way, he has received numerous awards and accolades, including twice being named one of the most influential people in legal education by the National Jurist magazine, and receiving the Chief Justice John Marshall Lifetime Achievement Award from the Judge Advocates Association. Everyone in the world of legal education was thrilled to hear that Blake was elected to be the president of the AALS, the American Association for Law Schools, because there is no one who knows more about legal education, who is more committed to law students in the legal academy, and who is better positioned to lead a generation of law schools and lawyers into this changing time in the legal profession. Blake Morant.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you. I appreciate that very generous introduction. And I'm so glad he read my mother's diary to do it. Although he skipped the chapter about the time I didn't do my homework in the 8th grade, but he didn't need to have that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure for me to be with you today on this very auspicious occasion. I want to also give a thanks to Irma Russell, my very dear friend with whom I've worked with at the Association of American Law Schools. She called me last year and asked if I would be the commencement speaker today, and I was very humbled and honored by the privilege. Now, this was before I agreed to take on this job as Dean of the George Washington Law School, which is the 3rd largest law school in the United States. But I want you to know that I told the provost I have an obligation to go to Montana, and that is going to take place a week after our commencement. I will not take this job unless you agree. Oh, yes, Blake, just take the job. You can go. You can go. But it's been such a pleasure to be with you today. I send greetings from the 178 member law schools that are members of the Association of American Law Schools. I just came. We had an executive committee meeting yesterday with the association. It didn't end until the end of the evening. I took a plane here, or should say I took a plane to Salt Lake, and then took a plane here, and arrived at about 1 o'clock this morning. And I am just over the moon by being here. You have a gorgeous, gorgeous state. My first time in this region was when I was an Eagle Scout and I was in the World Jamboree. And the World Jamboree took place in Idaho. We visited Yellowstone National Park. And then we flew to Spokane, Washington. We had to fly over Montana to get there. Having been to Spokane and now being here, I'm calling the Boy Scouts of America and say, you should have your performances and things right here. This is such a gorgeous state, and the friendliness has just overwhelmed me. I also have to say that oftentimes when you meet individuals who are from the East Coast, you wonder if they have a connection with you. And we are indeed connected. And I have to tell you, when I was dean of the Wake Forest Law School, there was an individual that I met who does a lot of pro bono work for the largest law firm in Winston-Salem. It's called Womble Carlyle. Womble Carlyle was one of the first law firms in North Carolina to hire a full-time individual whose job it was to create opportunities for their lawyers to give back to their communities in free services, what we call pro bono services. His name is Murray Greeson III. Murray Greeson is a graduate of this law school. And I want to tell you, when he speaks of this law school, he talks about the sense of community that's there and how it instilled in him this idea of giving back to the community. He has made such a huge impact for his law school and for his firm and for the state of North Carolina. That is your legacy that he carries, and that is one of the ones that I look forward to really amplifying with you today. Let me tell you, I salute this class of 2015. I haven't had a chance to meet you. I hope to have that chance to do that very, very soon. And I know that you've worked very hard. You've probably read every single case that you were supposed to read. You probably studied for a very, very long time. You probably have gotten very little sleep in the last 3 years. But you have achieved so much, and I am so proud of you. As I look at you, I remember my own commencement back in when I was sitting where you were sitting, and I remember this is a very dignified air in which we are, and we're all so very excited. And I remember that one of my classmates sitting next to me had a grandmother who was 100 years old, and he leaned over to me and he said, "My grandmother is so proud. I know she won't be able to say very much today because she is 100, and she's having a few issues with mobility, but I'm just so glad she's here." When his name was called, a foghorn was blown. Yes, it was the 100-year-old grandmother. And so I expect that today from many of those of you who are out here today. And certainly this class of 2015 is more than deserving of it. I also want to take an opportunity to thank the individuals who have made this possible. Of course, the class of 2015, who has worked so very hard for this distinction. But we all know we never do this alone. There are parents, there are grandparents, there are aunts, uncles, spouses, significant others, cousins, friends. Many of them are here today. And I'd like to take a moment for us to thank them for their support. As Paul so graciously mentioned, I am president of the Association of American Law Schools. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is the umbrella organization for approximately 178 law schools throughout the country with the aim of ensuring the quality of American legal education. As president of that association, I have taken it upon myself to really be a mouthpiece for American legal education. Class of 2015. I'm sure you've heard so many stories about where the law school is worth it. It's an investment that's very expensive, that many individuals are questioning the very tenets of what American legal education stands for. But I stand before you today to tell you that we live in a global and very complex universe. And never has there been a time when there was a need for critical thinkers, innovative problem solvers, individuals who embrace humanity, individuals who know that in order to solve problems, we have to be creative in that. Never has there been a time when that's more necessary. And here we have American legal education, which has done that in a glorious way for the last 100 years. You are joining a profession that has given you the skills to do many different things with your life, and never has there been a time in history where we need innovative, creative thinkers such as yourselves. So you're entering a noble profession, and I'm so gratified that you have. Remember that your career is not a destination, but it's a journey, and one that's undergirded by the degree that you are going to receive today. It will give you so many tools to be able to do so many things and take advantage of the opportunities that are before you. As you heard in my introduction, my very first job as a law graduate was that I was a JAG officer, an Army JAG officer. And I'll never forget this, because when I graduated from law school and I took the bar, I had an Army obligation. I had to come into the military. But I'm so glad that I did that. But I have to say I went in kicking and screaming, because so many of my other classmates were going into law firms and doing so many other different things that were sort of typical for those coming out of law school. But I had this opportunity, and I grabbed it. So when I basically filled out my form of where I wanted to be stationed, I put on some remote locations, such as Monterey, California, Honolulu, Hawaii. And I put in one blank that said, if you cannot station me in any of those places, please do not station me at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Why? Because I did my ROTC boot camp there, and I had these horrible memories of how terrible it was. And so the Army gets this form, and guess where they send me? Well, I polished my boots, and I went off to Fort Bragg, grumbling that I would never stay in the Army. And as soon as I get there, the SJA, who is the head attorney, says, I need a government contracts attorney, Blake. And it's usually reserved for someone who is highly intelligent, highly motivated, and I want you to do this. And I said, wow, he thinks I'm highly intelligent and highly motivated. Well, of course I want to do this job. Little did I know that once I got into the office, I realized that the government contracts attorney is the individual who signs off on every major procurement for the installation. And by doing so, if there was a legal problem with that procurement, the lawyer goes to jail. The top lawyer never told me that part when he said I was intelligent. Well, I took my job with great aplomb, and my very first action was to review the procurement of a piece of equipment that the top general on the installation wanted to buy for field training exercises on post. Class of 2015, this was my very first action. I want to tell you, I researched this to the nth degree. I wrote a memo to die for. It was written on 100% rag paper. It was thoroughly researched and had the greatest prose and text that you could imagine. And typically speaking, the line attorney gives it to the top attorney, the SJA, to present it to the general. And in this particular memo, and I'm a rule of law kind of guy, I discovered that the environmental regulations now apply to military installations, and that the general wanted to use his equipment in a section of the installation that had an endangered species. It was the red-cockaded woodpecker. I had never heard of the red-cockaded woodpecker. I had never seen a red-cockaded woodpecker. But it has become a permanent part of my life, and let me explain why. In my memo, I tell the general, you cannot buy this tank because you intend to use it in an area of the post that has the habitat of the red-cockaded woodpecker. On 100% rag paper did I make this statement. I presented to the top lawyer, and the SJA, who was Colonel Brown at the time, calls me in and he says, Blake, I want to tell you something. Of all the memos I've received from a line attorney, this is the best I've ever seen. He then says, I want you to come with me to explain it to the general. I then proceeded to tell Colonel Brown, but Colonel Brown, you don't understand. You have everything you have there to explain it to the general. And Colonel Brown looks at me and says, Captain Morant, you don't understand. You are going to explain this. Well, class of 2015, I realized that my memo would not be met with great pleasure by the general of the installation. And being my mother's only son, I decided to take a second look. And I looked at this and I began to think, you know, maybe there's a way to give the general what he wants without violating the rule of law. So I went around the installation and I found another place, a very similar place to where the general wanted to carry on his exercises. And I wrote an addendum to the memo, which said, if you move your desired exercise to this part of the installation, then you can buy your equipment. Well, I proceed to go into the general's office with the colonel, and the colonel introduces me and says, General Tackerberry, this is Captain Morant, our brand new Jack, who will explain his actions to you. Fortunately, I was wearing my Class B uniforms for the class of 2015. Those are the green Army uniforms that you see. They are made with very baggy pants. They did this for me because my knees were knocking the whole time I was explaining this to the general. So I explained to the general his option of going to this other section of the installation. And I said, General Tackerberry, you have the opportunity now to do what you want to do, because if you move it to this other section, you can buy your equipment, you can still do your field training exercises, you will fulfill your mission. And General Tackerberry looks at me and he says, Captain Morant, are you telling me that I have to alter my plans because of a bird we've never heard of? And I said, well, General Tackerberry, that's one way to look at it. But I want to tell you something. You are going to send a message to all of those who are basically trying to fulfill these obligations. You're going to be one of the generals of a major installation that's able to do your mission, but at the same time show that you can follow the regulations. General Tackerberry stopped and looked at me and says, Captain Morant, you're good. We left the office. Colonel Brown was patting me on the back, and the first thing I did when I got to my office, and I was very cool about this, Colonel Brown said, Captain Morant, you've done a wonderful job. I said, thank you very much, Colonel Brown. It's all a part of my mission as a very good attorney. I very calmly went into my office, shut the door, and screamed and called my mother and said, guess what I just did? But that little vignette teaches you that the opportunities that you receive give you an opportunity to do many different things. Note the creative thinking that is there, but you're staying within the rule of law at the same time. You will have those opportunities as well. As I look at the history of this profession, and I've had that opportunity to do it in a number of different ways, I recognize that the types of instances that I've just told you about is part of a greater way of looking at our profession. In 2003, I was given the opportunity to give the commemorative Thomas More Lecture at St. Dunstan's Church in Canterbury, England. For those of you who don't remember Sir Thomas More, he served as Chancellor or Lord Chancellor of England during the reign of Henry VIII. As you know, working for Henry VIII is a high-risk proposition. And Henry VIII, who wanted to divorce his wife, Catherine of Aragon, to marry Anne Boleyn, who would hopefully sire a son for him, wanted Sir Thomas More to endorse two proclamations, one making the king the head of the Church of England, the other that any issue of Anne Boleyn would become heirs to the throne. Well, Thomas More, who was steeped in not only Catholic theology, but also in the rule of law, knew that these proclamations had great difficulty. He couldn't agree with them. But he also told the king, I can't agree, but I won't endorse. And of course, he paid the ultimate price for it. But I want to tell you, doing research on this made me realize that the historic mission of lawyers was not only to look at how you represent your clients, but even Thomas More recognized this 500 years ago. The qualities of a great lawyer are the individuals who think creatively, individuals who work for their clients assiduously, but also look for ways to enrich the communities that they're in. If you look at the historic nature of many individuals who have been in this profession, you will see that that is the true marker of a great attorney. It is the true marker of what makes this profession so noble. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity, you should read John McCullough's book on John Adams, the second president of the United States. And John Adams, who was by far, to me, one of our greatest presidents. It's unfortunate that he hasn't been heralded more. If you read this book, you will find that John Adams' father wanted him to go to Harvard and become a minister. But John Adams, who was a part of the founding of this nation, knew that a new democracy needed a creative thinker, needed a strategic thinker, and that lawyers were the individuals who could really usher in the tenets of democracy in a very big way. And that's why he decided to become a lawyer. All of those fit within this marker of the nobility of this profession, and you are becoming a part of that. When you look at all of those various tenets, and you look at this service, you look at the idea of representing your clients and going beyond that and doing things for society, it all fits within this umbrella of what I call professionalism. And professionalism not only takes in the tenets of being an ethical lawyer, it also takes in the tenets of doing all that you can to enrich the societies of which you're a part. I call it humanism. And you don't hear that very much when lawyers are described, but it's a very big part of who we are, and it's a very big part of who you are. I took the liberty of really researching and looking at the University of Montana School of Law, and one of the things that gratified me so much was the sense of community that's here. Interim Dean Gregg told me that every single faculty member knows every single student in this law school. And that is a challenge to me because my law school has 2,000 students. I'm going back and studying every single view book that's there. But doing that instills this sense of community that instills in you the humanity that you will take with you as you go forward in studying for your degree. You will find that you will have many opportunities as a lawyer coming through. You'll represent your clients as well, but you'll also have opportunities to help individuals all along the way. Seize those opportunities. They're the ones that not only enrich your life, but it enriches the lives of those that you touch. When I was dean at the Wake Forest Law School, I was called upon to address the 5th grade class of one of the inner city schools. One of the major law firms there adopted one of the inner city schools there. Before they did this, the inner city school had some of the lowest test scores of any elementary school in the city. Once they adopted it, those scores went up exponentially. And one of the things that they do is that they invite the 5th grade class in once a month for a luncheon. Sit down, cloth napkins, the whole 9 yards. And they invite someone to come in to inspire the 5th graders to achieve academically. I was invited as the new dean of Wake Forest to do this, and I want to tell you something. I've spoken in many venues. This was the most nervous I've ever been. To inspire 5th graders to be very, very academic. And so I've studied like crazy. I got up on all of my cultural references and everything like this. And so the president of the 5th grade class introduced me. I'll never forget, it was a lovely young man. And he introduces me and he says, I want to tell you, classmates, that Dean Morant is the dean of a law school. You may not know what a dean does, but I will tell you. He is head of the faculty. And the faculty does everything that he tells them to do. He also works with the president of the university, and the president of the university defers to him in every single opinion that he has. And people love him far and wide, regardless of the decisions that he makes. When I got up to make my speech, I said to the young man, would you please come to my next faculty meeting? So I give this speech and I tell the 5th graders, you know, if you want to have fun, studying basically gives you that opportunity. If you do well academically, you could do so many different things that are fun. And I've noticed that in my own life. So study all that you can so that eventually you can do the things with your life that you want to do. Well, later that evening, I had an engagement downtown. And when the engagement was over, my wife and I were leaving the parking garage, and I had this ticket, and I had to give the ticket to the attendant, who's this lovely young woman in the kiosk. And I give her the ticket, and all of a sudden, I hear this little voice. And this little voice said, hello, hello, remember me? You spoke to my class today. I've got my book. I'm studying. I want to have fun. I want to do this. And so I looked at him, and I looked with a big smile on my face, and I said to his mother, I said, I'm so proud of him. And, I spoke to his class today, and she said, well, I couldn't find a babysitter, so I had to bring him with me. And when I did, he said, this man said I had to study in order to do well and have fun. So, Mama, when I come, I'm taking my book and I'm going to study. And she said, I want to tell you something, Dean. That's the only thing he said since I brought him here. And I said, I am so proud of you, and I'm proud of him. Now, you're going to work with him, aren't you, as he does this? She said, I have no choice. That's the only thing he talks about. It was truly one of the most gratifying moments that I've had. And think about class of 2015. You will have those opportunities. In addition to representing your clients, to make huge inroads with individuals whose lives you can touch immeasurably. That's what this degree, that's what this profession is all about. And I know that you will do that in a very good way. So as I leave you today, I want to leave you with something that I think is very, very prophetic. And that is, I know all of you will do well. You're graduating from an excellent law school. You're going to have the tools, you're going to have the skills to make a difference, not only in your own lives, but in the lives of so many people that encounter you. But while you do well, remember to also do good. That is a part of the humanity. That is a part of the professionalism. That has been a historic part of this profession you don't hear much about. And I guarantee you, it will enrich you. As I close, and I mentioned Thomas More before, there's a wonderful film about him called A Man for All Seasons. It came out in the late 60s. And if you hadn't had a chance to see it, class of 2015, definitely look it up on Netflix. It's a great, great movie. And so it chronicles his life. And in this movie, when it gets toward the end, and you have this scene where his family is visiting him when he's in prison, and he's about to be beheaded. And his family comes in, and his daughter, Margaret Roper, basically argues with him to capitulate, if he would, in order to save his life. It's a wonderful scene. And some of the things that you don't see in there are really very prophetic, because one of the things about Thomas More was he believed deeply, not only in standing with your beliefs, but also in the universality of intelligence, regardless of gender. So he infused in his daughter this idea of debate and thinking very probatively. And his daughter tried to use this in order to get him to save his own life. So there's this scene at the end of the movie where he's in the dungeon and she comes to talk with him. And she tries to persuade him, capitulate, if you will. Think about this. Don't be a martyr. Be a person who thinks strategically about getting around this instead. And Thomas More, who basically felt there's certain times when you know you have to stand fast for something, gives this soliloquy that is really, to me, very prophetic today. And I want to share that with you. And he said, in a state where charity, modesty, justice, and thought aren't always profitable, perhaps we must stand fast a little, even at the risk of being heroes. Class of 2015, I know that you're going to stand fast. I know that you're going to be exemplars of this profession. And I know you're going to not only do well, but do good. And in the end, you will be our heroes. Thank you very much.
Dean Morant, thank you for the excellent, insightful, engaging, and exciting talk. We very much appreciate it. I know that a year ago, when Dean Irma Russell invited you here to speak, and before you took office at the ALS, and before you became dean of one of the largest law schools in the United States, that it probably sounded like a good idea. And I'm sure that you and Paulette made the decision to come out here, and we appreciate that. And at this time, I'd like to give you a token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
We gave Dean Morant and Paulette a book of Charlie Russell paintings and drawings because we think it's so symbolic of Montana and such a cultural part of Montana. And Paulette, I'd like you to stand and be recognized. And thank you for your decision to come out here and to bring Blake out here. At this time, I invite the Native American Dry Lake singers, including Tony Ryder, Michael Ryder, Calvin Gaughan, and Dean Moccasin, to sing an honor song. To the members of the Dry Lake Singers, thank you so much for honoring our students with such a special song. This year's graduating class has selected Donald J. Stuker to deliver the student address. I'm pleased to introduce D.J. Stuker, candidate for the degree of Juris Doctor.
So I'm not sure who's responsible for the decision to have me go after Dean Morand, but I'd like word when all of this is over. I'm tempted to just issue a legal citation and then step down. But at any rate, this speech is mostly for my classmates, so the rest of you just bear with me, please. I've been told that the practice of law is largely compensating for the unexpected. If that's true, then nothing I've done at law school thus far has better prepared me for the practice of law than agreeing to give this speech. First, I came down with laryngitis 3 days ago, so please excuse my voice if it starts to crack. Then you'll understand, due to a miscommunication, I found out at 9 o'clock last night that I would need to revamp my speech. I'd originally written a speech that was twice as long as this one, roughly 6 minutes longer, only to find out I had drastically overshot the mark. Bureaucracy. What are you going to do? Now, while that's terrible news for me, it's in fact great news for you. You see, many lawyers bill in 6-minute increments. And at the rates we bill, taking up 6 minutes less of my time to give you this speech likely just saved you more money than switching to Geico. So instead of a lengthy discourse and a witty social commentary, you're going to get 5 pieces of advice that I'd like you to consider going forward, each in 60 seconds or less, which I wrote at dark 30 this morning. So again, bear with me. My first piece of advice is be nosy. For those of you that know me, you know I'm not kidding. I feel very strongly that being nosy is important because it allows us to connect with other people. If someone you know is having a bad day, ask what's going on. Instead of politely ignoring the fact that somebody might have been crying or having a bad day, ask what's going on. And even if something isn't wrong with that person, dig in a little bit. Ask about their new haircut. Talk about how their children are doing. It's amazing how much a simple gesture like asking after their well-being means to some people, and how much less other people will irritate you if you have a basic understanding of what's going on in their lives. Then again, sometimes eating Teddy Grahams is a better way of dealing with annoying people. They're so cute, and the crunch is really satisfying when you bite their little heads off. Second, give up on happiness. It doesn't exist. For one thing, we're lawyers. Happiness was something we signed over along with the content of our bank accounts when we got into this mess. For another thing, happiness is really just a lie we tell ourselves to get through the day. You see, we set arbitrary markers as indications of happiness. If I just lose these 5 pounds, if I just finish this brief, once I pass the bar, then I'll be happy. Like happiness is a place that we suddenly reach and then we're good to go for the rest of our lives. The trouble with this is that when we get to the station, all too quickly we realize there's another marker, and that becomes happiness. And we spend so much time chasing it. As soon as the brief is done, you create a new marker of happiness. And instead of rejoicing in the success of completing it, you just keep stoking the fire of the train to drive you further and further on. You never get to happiness unless you go see the lovely man in the white lab coat for happy pills. And you think I'm kidding, but if you disagree with me on happiness, go get a prescription. Instead of seeking happiness and conversely never finding it, try being fulfilled or loved or joyful. These are things that stick with you. You finish one brief but wouldn't be happy until you finish the remaining 3. Stop and take a moment to feel accomplished. Yeah, you still have those other 3 to write, but you can glow a little bit from having accomplished the 1 so far. So our justice system might have some deep-rooted problems. I'll grant you that. But that shouldn't distract and detract from the fulfillment we can find in our lives by doing what we can to help other people. Third, spend time on your family and friends. They tell us that we all have a high earning potential, and with the current student loan debts, I hope to God they're right. But that potential is kind of like the carrot and stick of happiness. If you just put off having a life, clock 2,500 billable hours a year or more, then a decade or 2 down the road, it'll pay off. Life will slow down and you'll be able to enjoy it. Hopefully. But what does the money buy? Fancy cars, large homes. What good is a large home if you have no one to help you fill it? And as for cars, at some point in your life, I don't care how much money you spent on it, that car is going to break down. Trust me, I drive a Dodge. Let me say it again, your car will break down. But the people around you, the opportunity to make memories, to create stories, and to find love, that won't always be there. So yes, work hard, chase your careers, but occasionally go fishing with one of your parents. Have that date night with your husband or wife or significant other that you haven't seen in the 3 years that have passed since we started law school. Because someday those memories are going to be more precious than anything your accumulated wealth can buy you. Fourth, quit trying to be normal. It's a waste of time. And like happiness, I'm sad to inform you it also does not exist. A dear friend of mine is here today, and every time I say the word normal, he flinches. He does so because, as a society, we've become so obsessed with the idea of normal, of normalcy and fitting in, being cleanly identifiable, that we forget normal doesn't exist. Normal is simply a perspective, quite usually our own perspectives as we apply them to other people. In illustration, I'd like to impart to you a very profound quote that I came across as a child. It's from a very studied and wise fictional character, Morticia Addams. She once said, "Normal is an illusion, for what is normal for the spider is chaos for the fly." And the point here is that I beg you to simply relax and be who you are. Throw out all of the lawyer stereotypes and be whatever you have inside of you to be. Because maybe the person that's inside, the one that hates wearing suits, or your inner drag queen, the one that doesn't fit normal, maybe that's the person who your clients really need. After all, the reason they got off Google and came into your office was because they wanted to see a human, not another machine. Finally, I beg you, and this is my most dearest request of you, don't put people in boxes. Don't label people based on who they love, what church they go to, the clothes they wear, or the cars they drive. Because when we label, life turns into a chess game, and we miss out on so much. Instead of seeing the unique talents and inherent virtues of a person, so many times we simply reduce them to a label. It's like in chess, pawns, knights, kings and queens, and in doing so we blind ourselves to the potential that these people have. Instead of seeing their strengths for what they are, we only call on them when they fit the move, so to speak. Need to go diagonally, we look for a bishop or a queen. Needing to move forward a great distance, we'll maybe look for a rook. Now, as unfortunate as that is for us and our personal growth, it's even worse for that person. Being placed in a box limits them also, and so many people are unable to escape the boxes we put them in. Instead of seeing the potential to cure cancer, that young man with all the tattoos on his arm looks in the mirror and sees someone who could never hold a job in the professional world. Because, of course, with all those tattoos, who would hire him? Instead of the next CEO of a Fortune 500 company, that girl that you just snidely insinuated was overweight sees someone that no one would ever listen to because she doesn't fit in. Clearly, she doesn't care about herself, so why would she care about a job like that? It's a dangerous slope to tread, judging others. So please, your photo albums, old clothes, even occasionally small untrained children belong in boxes. But people don't. And yes, I do believe small untrained children don't count as people, because if you have to feed them, bathe them, and they still vomit on you at random, it's really more of a pet than a person at this point. So, in closing, I'm going to steal a quick moment of your time for personal reasons. See, every great book I've ever read included a good dedication, and seeing as I'm quite proud of this speech, it being the product of my final all-nighter of law school, I'd like to dedicate it to the people who gave me the opportunity and inspiration to give it. First, to my cousin Christy, who with her incredible husband restored my faith in marriage, despite divorces being more profitable to our profession. To my brilliant sister Elizabeth, whose intelligence and passion for knowledge constantly inspires me to continue learning. To my beautiful partners, Colton and Wade, for putting up with me the last 3 years and reminding me every day how beautiful the world that we all get to live in is. To my incredible parents, Richard and Rose, for loving me no matter how far outside of normal I got, and for giving me the ability to pursue the degree I'm about ready to receive. And finally, to my classmates, for granting me the extreme honor of speaking to you all today, and for putting up with my particular brand of crazy over the last 3 years. I am privileged to have spent this time with you, and as you go out into the world, if you ever need someone to come into your life and be a little bit nosy, you know how to get a hold of me.
DJ, thank you very much for such wonderful, thoughtful, and moving and from the heart comments. We greatly appreciate it. Will the class of 2015 please rise? Commissioner Christian, on behalf of the faculty of the University of Montana School of Law, I am pleased to present these candidates for the Juris Doctor degree.
Class of 2015, by the authority vested in me by the Regents of the Montana University System and upon the recommendation of the faculty here at the University of Montana, I confer the Juris Doctorate degree upon all of you who have successfully completed the requirements of your degree. Congratulations on behalf of the entire Montana University System. Would you all please join me in recognizing these successful candidates?
Thank you, Commissioner Christian.
Caitlin Boland Arab with high honors. Samir Farovic Arab. Jacob R. Allington. Kristen Bannigan with honors. Anthony Joseph Robert Baxter. Brant Roman Michael Beaudry. David Allen Bell. Megan Alyssa Benson. Bobby Burkhoff. Nathan Talbot Block. Thomas J. Bergenon with high honors. Kelly Cahill. Zachary Kokoli with a certificate in Natural Resources and Environmental Law. Andrea Dawn Collins with a certificate in Natural Resources and Environmental Law. J. R. Connor. Tobias Cook. Graham J. Coppice. Ashley Collier Dano. Andrew Jackson Dickerson III. Michael Patrick Doherty with honors. Tyler Thomas Duggar. Kevin Michael Emmerich. Justin Dean Erickson. Jordan W. Fitzgerald with honors. Amy Fitzpatrick. Lael Andrea Gabriel with a certificate in Natural Resources and Environmental Law. Spencer David Gales. Dylan Leo Gallagher. Sarah Elizabeth Gaughan with a certificate in American Indian Law. Logan V. R. Grover. Jason Harby. Ryan Gregory Hennon with honors. Caitlin Hepburn with honors and a certificate in Natural Resources and Environmental Law. Jill Alexis Hughes. Brett Jensen. Carrie Lynn Jensen. Sadie Mae Johnston. Ross Patrick Keogh with honors. Maxwell Everett Kirkhoff. Daniel P. Knudsen, certificates in Natural Resources and Environmental Law and American Indian Law. Jeffrey Kratz. Ryan Lorenz. Megan Brianna Lowe. Nicholas E. Matthias. Madison Mattioli, no runner. Brianne Cassidy McClafferty with honors. Jim McCormick. Stephanie Lee McKnight. Matthew Robert Mitchell. Drew A. Moore. Elizabeth Tipton Music. Callie J. Oisted with high honors. Penelope Ann O'Terry. Eric Wilson Owens. Mercedes Oxford Kemp. Chase Parnell with a certificate in American Indian Law. Zachary Andrew Patton. J. Andrew Pearson with high honors. Colin Wallace Phelps with honors. Hillary Plouffe Austin with certificates in Natural Resources and Environmental Law and American Indian Law. Gretchen Mary Rankich. Eric P. Rathy. Levi Alden Robison. Jordan Felicia Salo. Shay Anson Baptiste Salmons. Benjamin Shoemate. Peter Theophilus Simon with honors. Jessica Elisa Simons. Kathleen May Steinhoff with honors. Corey Steinmetz. Donald John Stuker. Caitlin Nicole Taylor with high honors. Leah Wyman Tracy with high honors. PJ Van Dynen. Brittany Lee Vinson. Alexa R. Vogel with a certificate in American Indian Law. Jessica Walker Kelleher with a certificate in American Indian Law.
Thank you. Would you give one more hand to our graduates? To the class of 2015, you have no idea how much fun it is for faculty and deans to watch your careers. You also have no idea where you're going to be 10, 20, and 30 years from now. But congratulations. At this time, it's my pleasure to formally announce what we disclosed at a press conference in Kalispell yesterday evening after the Board of Regents meeting and approval. Renowned trial attorney Xander Blewett and his wife Andy of Great Falls have made a $10 million naming gift to the University of Montana School of Law. The gift includes a $1.5 million scholarship matching fund that will ultimately result in $3 million in scholarships for the school, a $3.5 million endowed faculty chair in consumer law and protection, a $2.7 million fund for varied programs in support of consumer law, access to justice, and consumer protection, and a $1.5 million discretionary fund for the school's use in meeting its contingencies. This summer, the school will become the Alexander Blewett III School of Law at the University of Montana, and the naming will be celebrated when the law school resumes in the fall. At this time, I'd like to show you a short video regarding the Blewett family gift. The Blewett name in trial lawyer circles has a great heritage in Montana. Alex Blewett was an excellent defense trial lawyer in Great Falls, well known all over the state. His son, Xander Blewett, is one of the best trial lawyers the state has ever produced.
The reason I went to law school is it was kind of a mishap. I was in MSU in mathematics, and that career was gone. The math career was gone, so I decided to go to law school.
And he was just like any other student, living with a bunch of guys and hanging out and getting to class.
After law school, I went to work for Jardine, Stevenson, Blewett and Weaver. And then in October 1st of 1985, John Hoyt and I got together and formed a partnership. And I said, we should do this, and he agreed. So we put up that money for the courtroom, and then, as I have said before, charitable giving begets other charitable giving.
The gift that they gave me, it was huge. I haven't met the Blewitts yet, but based on what I know of them, I can only assume that they're the best kind of people.
When I was a first year there, I looked at the glass case and I saw that my grandpa had graduated from law school at the University of Montana in 1938, and I know how hard he worked to get there, and then go down the aisle a little bit and see that my dad graduated in 1971, and then it's pretty special to be able to graduate with my brother in 2007. So it's just neat to be a part of it, and I'm hoping I can follow in their footsteps.
Well, I'm obviously proud of my dad. Yeah, he graduated in 1938, came to Great Falls, worked here till he, in effect, passed when he was 90 years old, and he was a very good teacher for me.
Well, I think with my grandfather and my dad, they both love to come to work every day, and they love the law, and they love the help and the impact they can have on people's lives.
He was a generous giver, but he was a very conservative-minded person from a fiscal standpoint. I think this would blow him away.
The gift from Xander and Andy Blewett and their family is a transforming gift. It's $10 million. It provides scholarships for students, and it's a matching scholarship grant, so it'll ultimately result in $3 million in scholarships for the school. It has an endowed chair in consumer law and protection. It's got a fund for consumer law protection and access to justice, and it has a discretionary fund for the law school's use. Those are enormous gifts that can transform a law school, and this gift will transform a law school.
We just hope that this continues, and we wish the law school well. It's been very good to us and to many others.
As Dean Morant said, members of this audience know firsthand what it takes, that it takes a community of family and friends to support a student achieving a law degree. You in this theater have provided family support, emotional support, care in times of sickness, child care on occasion, and other forms of assistance that made this achievement possible. And for that, we all want to thank you. I ask the graduating class and faculty to stand, turn, and join us all now in expressing our thanks to those who have sustained the graduates in this endeavor. I remind the brothers and sisters, cousins, and anybody else in the family and your friends who are thinking about law school to come and visit with us and come in and sit on a law school class. You are always welcome. I want to thank Bonnie Christensen for her excellent signing for this occasion. We appreciate it, Bonnie. By tradition, the Dean ends this hooding ceremony with a brief charge to you as you enter the profession. We have trained you to accomplish a great deal through discipline, hard work, time management, and planning, just as we have trained ourselves. In a sense, our preparation for professional life may leave us under the delusion that we are masters of our own little universe. But be aware that some of the most profound satisfaction in our professional and personal lives will likely come from simply being open to what happens in our daily lives. The Buddhists say, "I wonder what will happen today." So I charge you first not to let what will happen today get eaten by the schedule, the to-do list, the calendar, or the clock. I commit to you that I will endeavor to do the same. Second, be aware of callings in your life. Callings arise from the unconscious and recognize a series of connected events that, if you are discerning, may mean that you are being called to undertake a task, position, career, or challenge. You will be lawyers engaged in communities, governments, and a planet beset with problems of civil strife, resource depletion, environmental degradation, poverty, and injustice. It will be convenient to assume that someone else will tackle these problems. Listen for the persistent voice that tells you to accept the mantle and lead, even though you are afraid and certain that you're not up to it. History is replete with leaders, heroes, and successes who never planned to undertake the challenge, but did so when the calling came. And I think that our graduation speaker today, Dean Blake Morant, President Blake Morant, is a perfect example of that. So listen carefully when the calling comes and find your real inner strength. I commit to you that I will listen and act also. We look forward to having you as colleagues in this great profession of law. It is my pleasure to invite all of you in this auditorium to the brunch reception at the law school right across from the street in the atrium in the Garlington Lawn and Robinson Plaza. And with that, this concludes our commencement ceremony.